Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Dananu and I'm the man with black privilege. And with this video here, we're going to be talking about Moon Knight. Something that I've been waiting for Marvel to announce for a really long time. Moon Knight's one of those things where he's a D-list superhero, but you always see him in the background or with other teams and stuff like that. But so people may know what he looks like, they may know his name, but a lot of times if you don't read his comic books, you really don't know who he is. He's just some guy dressed up in a white Batman like outfit. But he's not as D-list as, let's say, somebody like Darkhawk. Another fan favorite of mine that gets no play. He's not that bad. But Moon Knight is a superhero. That's the thing, is we don't know if he's a superhero because he's a superhero with multiple personality disorder. So he has, let's say, think like Deadpool before the movie came out. Where before the movie came out, Deadpool, his inner monologues in the comic books were like different personalities that he would interact with and talk with. In the movie, he didn't really have that, so I can't say go on that. I mean, he was just kind of I'm gonna say crazy, but even in the movie, he wasn't as crazy as it is in the comic books. Moon Knight, however, is somebody who has 3 or 4 different personalities in his head at all times. They interact with him, they talk with him. They're all together different people. So you have the main, let's say, person, Mark Spector. And in the comic book, it's his old school origin was like, he was just some soldier guy. He died over in Egypt. And let's say he was either resurrected or saved, depending on what origin you want to go with. And he was saved by the spirit Khonshu, like the god of the moon, and resurrected him to be like his avatar on Earth, extracting vengeance and fighting injustice and all that kind of sort of stuff. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, that was a superpower for like a long time, but then they introduced, is he just crazy? Was he just some guy who went over there, almost died, and just when he came back, he just went crazy, and he thinks that he's been resurrected by Khonshu and that he's an avatar of Khonshu and, has some super abilities and stuff like that. You don't know if, because he has multiple personality disorder, so he could be nuts. He has like 3 other different personalities in his head that all have their own various skills and stuff, that they use. And they sometimes take control over his body and either fight crime or give him advice or do other things and stuff like that. So this could be a show that they can really do something great with. I don't know how they would do it from a film perspective, but if they can actually do it and make it work, then I don't know how you would make a superhero show out of that, but it works in the comic book. So they just have to somehow translate that to the movie type format and stuff like that. And I think they can make it work. Somebody else who's almost just like Moon Knight, except he has a whole lot more personalities in his head, is Legion. And the things they did with his TV show was damn good too. So if they can do something similar with Moon Knight, or somehow visually explain a lot of the multiple personalities and stuff like that, because that's half the comic book with Moon Knight a lot of times. In the comic books, you can draw or have panels that kind of illustrate that there are multiple personalities, or that people are talking to each other that aren't there, things like that. In a movie type setting or a TV show type setting, you have to visually explain that. I think they could somehow make that work. There's tons of movies where people talk to ghosts and stuff like that, and people that aren't there. So I really do think that they can really make this work and have it be a really badass TV show. Like, I want it to be a movie, but I think this could be a great way to introduce Moon Knight, who isn't, let's say, a big draw like the normal Avengers, And even unlike the Avengers are known. They were Marvel's B-list characters, don't get me wrong, when you compare them to like Spider-Man and the X-Men when the MCU was first starting out, right? But people knew who Captain America was. Iron Man, they may know who Iron Man was. They just thought it was a guy, or they thought he was a robot. That was their biggest problem with him. But people knew who the Hulk was. Moon Knight is like, okay, don't nobody know who this guy is unless you read Marvel Comics. Like, they may have seen him on a cover of a comic book, but that's it. So he's a little bit harder to explain. And then on top of that, you got to do the whole multiple personality disorder. You have to explain, you know, stuff about him, who he is. And that's a huge kind of hurdle to jump over. But if you have a good writer in there and a good director to visualize a lot of this stuff, I really do think that they can make some good work with that. Because a lot of the recent Moon Knight runs in the past few years have been great. Like, they had one where I think I don't know if it's the current run, but I know the run from, like, I want to say like earlier this year or last year, where he was in a insane asylum and he believed he was Moon Knight and stuff like that. But it was one of those things where it's like, he thought he was, you know, like his whole comic book run, it was like he thought he was this whole superhero running around in costume and stuff like that. But in reality, it's like, okay, well, he's a guy in a mental institution. Is he really that person? Kind of like what they did with the Mortal Kombat web series short that came out a few years ago, where they've had Raiden in the insane asylum, where he was like, I'm the god of thunder and I'm here to, you know, to stop Earthrealm from getting, you know, took over by Shao Kahn. And everybody was like, yeah, you're just some crazy white guy in an insane asylum. So you didn't know if he was really, you know, the god of thunder or not. Turns out he was in that. But they kind of sort of played up that same idea with Moon Knight's story, and, you know, it was left up to your own interpretation whether if he was crazy or not. You know, that's what, you know, a lot of the draw in reading his book was. And then you had a couple stories before that where he had like a different personality, dress up in like a white suit, and was like just going to town on villains and stuff like that and beating people up, Batman style, old school Batman style. And that was a really great run. I forget who he was actually fighting in that, but I remember there was they made this one issue where it was kind of like they were trying to do something like how the Raid just came out, and the people who made it got impressed by it. So they was like, we can do something similar with this comic book where we just have this hero go in this building and just floor by floor just beat up everybody. So they can really make something work if they, you know, if they stick to like the popular Moon Knight runs. And, you know, if this can be like Marvel's Batman, you know, essentially, without, you know, like the wacky villains and stuff like that. Because I don't think Moon Knight has, I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, he don't got no Green Goblin and no Joker to, you know, throw in there. So they would have to make up a street level bad guy for him to fight, and somehow make the show more about his mental deficiencies than stopping the bad guy. Or maybe, hell, you know, maybe they can do it like maybe he has a multiple personality that turns out to be the villain. Who knows? They can do that too. Try to put like a twist on things and things like that. Really hoping this turns out well. Really hyped for it. This is probably the most thing I'm hyped for that they announced so far, Marvel-wise, as far as comic book stuff. I know I'm hyped about The Mandalorian. We're gonna talk about that too. But the next video is gonna be about She-Hulk, so we're gonna talk about her next. And my name is Denani, and I'm the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.